What's going on? Welcome back to Dealing with the Devils, and that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun to watch. JD watched the game, but he could not stay up to record, and I understand, it is very late here on the East Coast, and the only reason I won't be yelling throughout the rest of this video is I'm going to try to be respectful to my roommates, but that was an incredible game. How many times can they walk this tightrope here and just let the lead for the other team get far enough out there where they can come back? And in this one, it was 17 points with about 10 minutes to go, and then the Blue Devils went on their run and were able to cut into the lead and really get back into this game. And everyone contributed to this victory. The bench was only eight guys today. They only went to 3 guys off the bench. Jordan Goldwire did not enter, but as usual, we're going to break it down the same way. We're going to go through the starting 5 here. So you got to start with Marvin Bagley again, the guy who's going to be the MVP on this side of the bracket. 30 and 15, was just dominant from the first half on. He had 18 and 8 in the first half. It took him a bit to get going in the second half till they made that run. Actually, in the first 10 minutes of the second half, Javin DeLaurier was leading the Blue Devils with 4 points, or the first 9 minutes, if you want to be technical here. But it took the rest of the team a long time to get going. Bagley, he started off slow. He had a dumb over the back call. He scored off an offensive rebound, and that tends to be what gets him going. And then after that, he had a nice layup. He had a 3-pointer go in, and then he had his patented, where he misses his own shot, gets the rebound, and then makes it. And so gets his own rebound and makes it, that is, and he seems to do that once every game, but this time he had really nice footwork as well, good power to it, and he looks like a man amongst boys. He's just been so dominant, and especially in this tournament. Now, the guy who's supposed to be carrying the torch, if you will, for Duke this season, Grayson Allen, he's been doing it in a different way the past few games. His shot has not been as consistent, though tonight he did finish 4 of 8 from behind the arc, and 5 of 12 from the field for 14 points. Not what you're necessarily expecting, but 7 assists. He's been a much better overall passer this year, and that's slid under the radar because everyone's been worried about the shooting, and I think while that's been an issue, the passing has had an uptick at the same time, though he did have 4 turnovers tonight. However, most importantly, he hit huge threes. There was the threes in the first half as well in the second half that were really at big times when the Blue Devils needed them most. Grayson was there to really hit the big shots. Now, Gary Trent had a bit of an up and down game, and he started off good. He had a nice early block. He then didn't do much until he started going off from the 3-point line. He had those 3 big 3-pointers to close the gap. And then at the end of the game as well, it seems like Gary just has his moments in the game where you're like, he's on the court, but you just don't really see him. And then he puts in spurts where he's just constantly around the ball. And also part of that, though, is he plays very good defense on that side of the court, so you don't really notice him on that side of the court, and that's a good thing. But as I said, those spurts, and at the end of the game, he hit big free throws. He had a great steal, obviously, at the end of the game there, and then right before that he had the bad reach, but then right before that he hit big free throws. So really, he had a very good game tonight against Florida in this win for the Blue Devils. And wrapping up the starting 5 here, you got Duval, who finished with 11.6 assists. In the first half, Duval had, 4 assists, no turnovers. He finished with 2 turnovers, but, that's okay. He had a big steal as well late in this one. And, he had that really nice reverse lane in the first half that I'm sure you guys noticed. And really, he scored a lot of his points in the second half as well, and which was big because the Blue Devils really struggled to score in the second half for a long time. As I said, it took until about the 11-minute mark for them to really get the offense going in the second half, and they finished with almost 40 points, but it took a while. And then Wendell Carter only finished with 6 points, but 7 rebounds, and he did a lot of it despite him getting himself in early foul trouble, a trend that has continued in these big games against, the major schools, the schools from the power conferences, where he's gotten himself into early foul trouble. So we'll see if that continues. He did finish with 6 and 7, and he does get stronger as the game goes on. Now, I will go into my 3 stars here for Florida. That a little bit of a trend. I'm curious what you guys think about this. What do you like this or not? But let me know in the comments below. Anyways, I'll do it for these guys. So the 3rd star for them would be Kulichov. I thought he did a nice job just, bodying down low, even despite the mismatch. And then he obviously shot pretty well, finished with 15 points for them. 2nd star was Chiozza, finished with 13 and 7, did a great job running their offense, and was just magnificent, especially in the first half. He did struggle though more in the second half, and I know you guys remember that block that Bagley had on Chiozza. And then obviously Jalen Hudson was fantastic. He had 24 points, 10 rebounds, and was definitely a terror for the Blue Devils. That offensive onslaught they put on the first half with the 3-pointers that they were raining in really reminded me a lot of the old Blue Devil teams that the Blue Devils used to field, but that's just not their team this year. And instead they've been a resilient bunch, a bunch that has come back in back-to-back games in incredible fashion here against Florida, against Texas. And I'm going to wrap up here with the bench. And then the next game here for the Blue Devils is Indiana. And that's going to be a fun game for sure coming up. But the bench in this one, they had a limited production, but it was key. Javin DeLaurier was great defensively. O'Connell didn't do nearly as much, but he hit a big 3 when they were starting to make their move to close the gap in the first half. Bolden looked good in the first half. He had a nice turnaround jump hook, rebounded well. He actually picked up a couple of assists, but again, between Bolden and DeLaurier, they just committed too many fouls, especially DeLaurier in this one, and that's what really limits the amount of court time they can get. So with the Blue Devils heading to Indiana, it's going to be their first true road test, and that's going to be a good experience for these freshmen, but they seem to fear no one and nothing, and so therefore I do think the Blue Devils will win again at Indiana. Not the powerhouse of old Indiana teams, but still a quality opponent, and it should be a good game. I expect it to be in the 70s to 80s for sure. Another good scoring affair similar to this game against Florida, but they don't quite have that firepower that Florida has. Florida was a tremendous team, and one that I'm going to be watching throughout the season now. But guys, that's it. Thanks for listening to Dealing with the Devils. I'm out.